Hello, welcome back to another lesson in our computer science course. We are learning how to use Java to unlock our potential in object oriented programming. So, today we're going to learn a brand new concept in object oriented programming, and that's called encapsulation. Now, that's a pretty fancy word, right? I mean, good night. I'm going to have to look it up just to be able to spell it, but let me try and spell it. Uh, so, it's in yeah, I'm cheating. You're right. Encapsulation. There we go. Encapsulation. To put in little compartments, basically. But I'm going to summarize a different way. I'm going to ask you a question. You ready for this question? Have you ever asked somebody how to do something and then gotten more than you bargained for? Perhaps it's even been me that has been guilty of that. Have you ever asked your math teacher a question like, hey, why is that answer a negative if I'm not a positive? And you ended up hearing the entire history of mathematics. Yeah, I think we all have. I have a word for it, right? It's called information overload, right? Info formation overload. Why are you telling me all of this stuff? I just wanted to know something simple, right? I just wanted that one little thing. Well, we're going to see that a big part of that is encapsulation. What I mean by that is that if someone asks, hey, how do you make this class work that you've created? I don't want to show them everything. Okay? Gosh, no one would ever program anything. I mean, the string class alone is just got tons of stuff in it. We just want to know, hey, what does it do and how do I do it? I don't need to know, you know, how you did all these little teensy tiny things. I just want to get my hands in there and use it to solve problems. And so what Java does to support this is called access modifiers. And we're going to study two important access modifiers. One is called public and the other one is called private. Access modifiers basically determine whether or not somebody sees something. So let's, without further delay, get straight to an example class. Let's make a class called Golfer. I'm in a project called Golf, by the way. So here we are, Golfer. You can imagine that this class is going to describe a golfer. All right, so let's just code this in together. I think we all could use some more practice on writing classes, right? So we start with the word class, and then it has to match the name of the file, okay? And we're going to think of some things that describe our golfer. One could be their age, which would be an int. Their name, which would be a string. Remember, strings are objects, so they have a capital S in its type. And their score, that they get, which would be also an int. Okay? All right, I've got golfer, and I'm going to say int A for age, maybe. String N for name. Int S for score. And I'll say, let's see here, age gets A, name gets N, score gets S. Okay? All right, let's compile it. So remember, these variables here have to be the ones that get the assignment. This is an arrow pointing to the left. Do you see it? It's taking that temporary A and shoving it into A. Very important that you keep that in mind always. All right, I'm going to make a golfer. I'm going to make the golfer 31. Name is Rory. It's a string, so I put quotes around it. And score 67. All right. Now, so here we have it. And let's inspect our golfer. We can see that we have an age, their name, and a score. So the first thing I like to point out is that I don't have any way to change these. If the score changes because it turns out you had a bogey, not a par, I can't change that to a 68. I'm stuck with this, okay? It's what we call immutable, which is actually something we like sometimes, but currently we haven't seen a way to change that, right? I can investigate their name, but I can't do anything about it. And if they get older, I can't change anything about that. So this is pretty static. It's not changing any, right? Well, that's one thing. But the other thing is that when I go to the documentation, I want to look at the documentation here. The way you do that is you come here to source code and you select documentation. I want you to see that we are getting a lot of these things called fields that we don't need this kind of information on. So all I want to have in here is just the methods that I can use. I don't want all this other variables. So we're going to make these things private. Just change this from documentation back to source code. So go right here and I want you to put the word private. Private and private. Okay. All right, now when I make a new golfer, I can still inspect. BlueJay's still going to allow me to see this stuff, but no longer can I, if you notice earlier I was able to get the name, I can't. I can go to the documentation and you can see that in fact it's changed. Now instead it's directly to this A, N, and S. These aren't very descriptive. We should probably have done better. And I want to show you one other thing. I can actually bring in this golfer 1 dot age. Error. Age has private access in golfer. So you see I can't directly access that variable on that golfer. I can only directly access a private variable in the class that you're working in. So I can access age anywhere in here, but I can't in some other class that I'm working on. So, and that's because it's private. And so let's talk just a little bit more about what private's going to do. Private is going to make sure that our variables are not changed without us really wanting to. It's going to help prevent us from accidentally messing up our code somewhere else. So making your variables private is something we're going to do from here on out. You will see there'll be one type of variable we might not make private, but standard instance variables like these will always be private. Okay? But we need to have some way to access them. So we're going to make what are called getter methods. So I want you to say get what is age? Int. So get age, and we're going to return their age. And I'm going to say int get score, and this method will return the score. So remember, when you write a method, you have to say what it's going to return before you give it a name, and then all methods have to have parentheses after it, even if they don't do anything. So now what I'm doing is I'm allowing the users of this class to be able to get the values after they set them. But I'm controlling how that happens, and that it's going to happen through a method. And there's many reasons why we want that to be, and I don't want to go too into that, but I'll show one example before we leave of one reason why we want to do things through methods. All right, so these methods, get age, get score, get name, is going to change what I can do. So let me go ahead and make a new golfer again. I'm just going to use the same example here. And 65. All right, now, same situation. If I go over here to this interactive shell, okay, and I say golfer1 again, dot age, it's still private. But now I can get it by saying get age. And so as long as I call a method. And y'all, this is yucky. I don't ever want to have to take an object and put dot something without it being method. Everything should be a method. If I'm getting the color, getting the name, getting the age, just getting information, that should be a method. Just like we have methods for moving objects and things like that, like forward or turn left. So that's much more conventional. Okay, I can do it from here now. If I right click on here, you see these methods. We can get the age, we can get the name, and we can get the score. Now I still can't change these though, right? I can't change them because they don't move. They don't allow me here to change it. So let's fix that. So we're going to make some methods here. What I call these are called getters or accessors because they get things. Well, there's also setters or modifiers because they modify things. I like saying getters and setters. So we've made some getters. Let's make some setters. So I'm going to say void because I'm setting something. I'm not returning anything. Remember, void if you don't return something. So if we're just going to change their age, we don't need to return the age. So I'll call this set age, and I will take in a parameter. Kind of like a new age or something. And remember, assignment is from right to left. Our permanent variable name is age, so that needs to be on the left. And I'll assign it the new age. We'll see how that works. I'll make a new golfer. 31. Rory. 105. 104. Bad day. All right. Now, I'm going to... You can see I can get the age, and it's 31. But now I can set the age, and I'll make it 30. Now if I get the age, it's now 30. And I can do that from over here. I can say golfer1.setAge, and I'll set it to 32. And then golfer1.getAge. So if you don't put a semicolon, it'll actually show you what it is. This is the rules of this shell. I know we haven't used it much, but I'm showing it now. So now we have the ability to change things. But all changes have to be done through these methods. Let me show you what would happen if this wasn't private. So I'm going to remove private from age, okay? And I'm going to make a new golfer, and I'm going to make him, again, 31. Again, Rory, it's Rory McIlroy. 104 wouldn't be that bad for me to play golf, but for him it would be bad. He's, one of the best in the world. So, in case you're wondering about that. 72. All right. Now, because I've removed that private modifier, I can now say golfer1.age and actually see it. But even more dangerous, I can actually change its value using the assignment operator. Do you see that? How I'm changing it? And now I have complete control from outside of the class. And I know you're thinking, well, why is that any different than doing it from the set age variable method? Well, I'm going to give you one example. What's this? Golfer1.age is -5. And then I'll just run it from over here. I'll say get age. -5. What I have done is I have got no control over the number that is put in there. I have no way of checking to make sure that it's valid, right? So let's go back and let's make that private, and let's add a little bit of security here. Let's make sure that this new age is appropriate. And we're going to do that with an if statement. So we're going to say if, and then we're going to put in these parentheses the variable new age is greater than 0. Because I don't want somebody changing the age without some sort of restriction. So now if they try and change the age and it's not a good age, nothing will change. All right, so let's study the framework for this if statement. When you want to use if statements, you say if, and then in parentheses, and you have to use parentheses, you put your condition. Mine is that new age is greater than 0. Then you put the curly braces. And then inside those curly braces, we can do the code we want to do only if that is true. Okay? We could do some additional things here. We could use an else. And we could say else, maybe we set age to 1. because we'll say, well, if they tried to set it to a negative number, we'll set it to the smallest age it can be. Or we can just leave it alone. And that's what I would do. I would just leave it alone in this case. All right, so everything's back to there. I want to point out a couple of other things. We're not giving control over the name. We're not allowing them to change the name. And I think that's smart, because if they really want to change the name, they need to make a brand new golfer and delete this golfer's object. Doesn't take that long to construct a new golfer. We've done it about 6 times already. So those are certain things you want people to be able to change, and other things you don't want them to be able to change. Maybe instead of setting the age, I should have a method that just increases it. But here's the big story. I want everything through methods, okay? That's how objects communicate with each other. They do not play with private parts, okay? No, we don't do that. We go through methods. Let's go back here and let's look again at our documentation. I want to point something out. Do you notice here that this documentation, and this is something I want you to get very familiar with, by the way, is going to documentation, because we're going to be going really into that soon. Notice that they've got this thing here for modifier and type. We know the age is an int. Get age returns int. But it says package private. Well, that's not something that I remember putting in front of the int. That is actually the default security of Java. And what it means is that you can only run these methods if you are in this project. So if we wanted to, say, take this golf project and put it in place with some other project, maybe like a golf video game project, and quite often large projects will have folders in different areas, groups working together, this is actually pretty not helpful. This is like the default security level for Java is package private, and I don't want you ever using it. I want you from now on, every time, to make a decision about whether you want something to be public or private. Public means anyone can use it, you can use it anywhere. Private, you have to be working in that class to use it. I know that sounds like a big burden, but I'm going to make it easy for you. Every single instance variable should be private. Everything else should be public. Okay? That includes the class golfer. So we're going to say public class golfer. That includes the constructor, public golfer. The getAge method will be public. The getScore method will be public. The getName will be public. The setAge will be public. Now that might sound like a lot of typing, but by the end of this course, the letters P-U-B-L-I-C will be just worn off your keyboard, because you are going to write public in front of everything. It's just the way it is. Get used to it. So why have we not been doing this from the whole time? Since from now on, we're going to do it. Well, because it's wordy, right? And it's difficult to learn when things are wordy. And I want you to understand that this word public, you don't even really imagine that it's there. The first thing in a method that you need to write is, what does it return? What is it called? And it always has the word public. Okay? So just get used to that. Now let's take a look at the documentation, and all of a sudden things got a lot cleaner. You'll notice it doesn't even say the word public. That's because public is the default. It's only public if I can even see it at all. So public now, I know I said earlier package private is a default. By that I mean if you don't put public, it makes it package private, just to keep some sort of security. But everything should really be public, and that's why when you make your public documentation, this is what you show people who want to use your class. It doesn't say the word public, because you wouldn't be sharing it with them if it wasn't. All right. So that's a pretty big chunk of stuff for us to go over. All will boil down the idea you're going to put public in front of everything except for the instance variables where you're going to put private. We talked about how to access age and score and name, and how to make methods that allow us to set age. And everything will be done through methods. I'm excited where we're going to go from this. Now that we've introduced this, we're going to be able to open up a lot more things that we can do. But I'm going to conclude this lesson by telling you to keep practicing, Keep writing those methods and try and make variable names that are usable. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up, and I can't wait to share it with you. So until then, take care.